they're poked.
Yep.
Yep. And so
that was
to me that's like, okay, we've gone too far in this. We're going to put all the cattle down this chute.
Right. And it's funny. I mean,
that was actually the words out of one of my opponents' mouths.
Oh yeah.
About a week ago. Her exact words were, "Well, I'm just going to say it, and it was, if kids aren't getting their vaccines, they shouldn't be allowed in schools." And
That's who you're running against?
One of them.
To our viewers, what are you running for?
I'm running for Ottawa County School Board.
Which is not a paid position, correct?
Or is not a paid position.
Right, so it's volunteer.
All glory.
Right.
But this is a passion thing right here.
Right. And that's a very
for those who haven't seen, I got, single dad of 5 kids, so I do have some stake in the game here.
Right, so you do actually have 5 kids in the public schools.
In public schools, right. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And you have many friends that have kids in public schools,
yes, I do.
Including myself.
Yes, I do.
But in the reality is, America was born for freedom of speech,
absolutely,
for freedom of decisions of your own self.
Mm-hmm.
But then, all of a sudden, this past decade or whatever it's been more of trying to, like you were saying, corral or force into this line of just turning the ball.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of hypocrisy in that. When they try to say you need to have this in order to be here.
Right.
When it comes to public schools, and the reality is public schools are there for everyone.
Yeah.
Right. And as the parents, as the fathers of these children, we have the final say in how they are raised and how they are taught to be men and women of the society that we live in.
Yep.
And the minute you try to take away that power from the fathers or mothers is just crazy, and for some reason I don't understand why people don't realize how obscure that is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean the government, and this doesn't matter what side of the fence you're on.
Right.
You never want somebody who's not in your family saying what's best for your children. It'd be the same thing.
It's like me telling you how to
walking in your house and telling you how to discipline your kids or how to raise your kids or what. But same thing in schools. I mean, I don't think anybody needs the government coming in and saying this. No, you're wrong. This is exactly what your kid needs.
Well,
I think the parents need to have that voice.
Right. And there has to be discussion.
Yeah.
There has to be democracy.
Yeah.
There has to be, I listen to your story, you listen to my story. Right. It's like a marriage. You have to compromise a little.
And be respectful.
We have to be respectful. We have to give and take. We can't just sit there and pound the sand in the ground and go, this is all I'm going to do. And it's the same with Congress and the Senate. I've asked my wife if I can run for Congress, and she says in 10 years. I said, okay, I can wait 10 years. But I've been to D.C. I brought you to D.C.
Yeah, we might go again this.
We need to sign up for that. We got the sign up.
April
right now.
This year or March?
March. But we go there, and this is a story that I don't really tell a lot of people. We are there voluntarily to promote. For us, it was farming for agriculture. Yep. I was promoting blueberries in Michigan. I represent Michigan Blueberries. I'm the acting president of Michigan Blueberries. So I'm there to support my farmers and to make sure that Congress and the Senate understand the decisions that they make represent or affect these farms, millions and billions of dollars in Michigan, a lot of money, with agritourism, with farming, with labor, with packing facilities. And I walk into this meeting, and it's like a high school. It's like high school. I sit across the congressman or woman, and she goes, "Hey, what's Bob saying down the hall?" And me and him are like, "What?" They're like, "Yeah, what was Bob saying down the hall?" Their other opponent. We're like, "Don't you guys have phones? Can't you just call them? Walk down the hallway, knock on the door." Like, that's how it clicks. Like it's, and we're like, we're here to promote this. Yeah. Why are we being the telemarketer between these two people that are in the same, building? Yeah. And it's just one of those things where.
And there is some really great people. I mean, we met
on both sides.
Yeah, and
on both sides.
There is.
Yeah. There's really good people, and when you get to the core of these people representing our counties and states, There are really good people.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's not what you see on television.
No, I mean we're hanging out with a couple people on the other side.
Yep.
You know, and I would hang out with them any day of the week.
Right.
They're amazing people.
Right.
And I don't
You
like
know?
to. I mean, this may sound funny from an Ottawa Impact person, but no, we have gotten to this point where you're either this or you're that.
Right.
And I think the conversation is how do we solve this polarization, and it's certainly not looking at Lansing. It's looking across the street at your neighbor. It's looking, your coworker. And I know. The political platform that I got involved in, was a critique of the public, infrastructure of schools and policy and health departments and things like that. But admittedly, we have brilliant people in our health department, and we should.
Right.
And they're doing good things. But this whole structure in America allows for people to get involved, represent their government, because we are a self-governing nation, and our community needs voices of people that are in working in this environment, as opposed to, I've had a life of affluence, and now I want to use my influence, to sort of, maintain this sort of overarching structure of, this is our system more or less. And so I'm a counterculture type candidate, I have to point out that, yes, we have great people that do good things, in our community, in our schools, in our township, in our, county government. But we have to be able to critique and make, policy change when we've realized that the structure has hurt
not
people.
Working. Yeah. Right.
And you got to be in a vice right now as a blueberry farmer, because you've got the conversation about land use, the cost of the blueberry to to get it to market, all of your overhead, and
the labor costs.
We were fighting labor last year.
Yep.
We're still fighting labor, but even in Ottawa and Michigan, we're dealing with some legal stuff for our packing facilities as well.
Okay.
And permits and whatnot, and it's just the amount of weight that's put on agriculture, financially and mentally, is exhausting for most people. I tell a lot of my friends, I go, there's no way you can handle being a farmer, and they go, why? I go, you couldn't handle the stress.
Yeah.
I honestly feel like it's like the government's riding a bike and they're taking a stick and shoving it in their front spokes as they're riding it, because that's basically what they're doing. I mean, it's like, why would you want to shoot yourself in the foot and rely on imports and everything else? Like,
well, and the economy, right? Like, we talk about economic stability. And as I get older, and you're a little bit older than me, I get it. I'm not trying to rub it in.
By a month or two, I think.
But as I get older, I'm realizing how industries they're stacked on top of each other to create something, right? And if we start to pull these bricks out of the economy, it becomes unstable.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're looking at the docks, when the union workers were not wanting to work, or farmers, we've talked about going on strike, but it's not in our blood to go on strike. But at the same time, it's like we are at a point of no return. Yeah. I mean, we've got farms in Michigan. Last year, we had over 600 acres of blueberry farms sell to housing units, because they cannot financially open the doors anymore. I know these people. I personally know these people. I have them in my phone. They cannot make it work anymore. And I get it. I'm in the same industry. There's the nights where I look at the laptop or my spreadsheet of money and I'm going, okay.
So it's got to be enticing there, right? You got the ability to sell this property and make a housing development.
And West Michigan's blowing up. The whole side of West Michigan is just, we are one of the biggest growing counties, or states in America.
That was something I was bringing up in D.C. when we were there a lot. I said, as a business guy, and starting multiple businesses, I said, say I want to start a new business. Say we got other people want to start a new business. I said, I want to get into farming. I'm looking at it from a business standpoint. There's no money in it for me.
Zero.
There's a lot of overhead.
Yeah, tons of overhead. I mean,
write-offs,
I mean,
but that's
you know,
about it.
but profit-wise, I'm like,
There's no profit.
it would make no sense for I could go start a business over here that would make more money than getting into farming. I'm like, what is the incentive for young people now to get back into that? Like there's literally none.
There's a lot of USDA stuff out there for young farmers and whatnot. But the reality is when you actually crunch the numbers, it's physically impossible to start from scratch. Right now.
Unless you're
generationally into or you inherit of some sort.
But who's that guy that wins the lottery and decides to buy a farm and go into blueberries?
Who's that guy? Is there a guy?
No, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, there is.
You know,
I mean, unless you just need to blow money somewhere.
Because that's the point. You know, if you get that nest egg and you get that opportunity to live a life of leisure, the last thing you're going to do is.
And if you see these people with a lot of money are buying farmland across America.
Mm-hmm.
Across America, farmland is going up for sale because the farmer cannot financially keep it open.
Yep.
And these very large people with very big bank accounts are buying land because my grandfather always told me, he goes, the one thing that will never lose value is land.
Yep.
You could buy this acre right now today, and in 10 years it'll be worth way more.
Right.
Yep.
You might not be able to afford to buy it right now, but I can guarantee you in 10 years this land will be worth 5 times more.
I live on like a quarter acre in Grand Haven Township, and we moved in 2013, and it's amazing what that property would sell for today.
Like, do you ever listen to Dave Ramsey's podcast at all?
I do. He was actually on.
He's got a good one.
I actually just listened to Tucker Carlson today. He was on it.
He brought up a really good point. He had a couple callers call in one day, and they're like, well, you know, we're thinking about waiting to buy a house till the market, you know, the percentage rate drops and this and that. And he goes, I'm going to tell you right now, he goes, would you hesitate to buy a house 20, 30 years ago? And they're like, well, no, prices are great. He goes, exactly. Mm-hmm. He goes, do you think by waiting a month or 2 months or 3 months or however many years, he goes, you're going to be sorry you didn't buy that house right now. He goes, they will never go down in value. He goes, they might teeter a little bit. He goes, 10 years, you're sitting way better than what you were, you know. And he brought up a really good point on it. He goes, it doesn't matter if you're 2 points higher on your interest rate right now. He goes, you can refinance that if it comes down. He goes, you can't refinance the price of land in a house, what you're just saying.
Right.
He goes, that's going to go up.
Yeah.
So it was real interesting, you know, and, you know, same thing on that, you know, I'm all over the place today, but like just how expensive like everything is, like the housing market, the food and everything else right now.
Grocery stores,
like, yeah. And
it's not
and,
the farmer, trust me, I ain't raising the price.
Yeah, it's just,
well, you can't.
I can't. I don't even get to choose.
really
Farmers don't get to choose the price.
Right.
I'm given a price every day, and that's what I sell for.
He had a really good point that he brought up. He goes, social media. He goes, the problem now, he goes, you know, 50 years ago, he goes, you had the Joneses. People kept up with the Joneses. He goes, the problem was, he goes, the Joneses lived right next door to you. He goes, so you saw what went on at the Joneses' house. He goes, I don't want none of that. They're arguing, fighting over money, but they got a nice car sitting in the driveway. He goes, now you go on social media, you see what everybody else has. He goes, you don't get to see all that bad stuff that's going on behind the scenes. He goes, so now you got all these young people coming up trying to keep up. Well, I want that because he's got a nice car, you know, and this and that. But he goes, it's not like 50 years ago where you knew everybody and you saw what everybody was going through to get that. He goes, people now just aren't able to see that, you know.
Can I change the subject?
Yes, please.
So as a public servant of, you know, your community, how does it affect your relationship with your kids, your wife? Like especially during re-election time.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I thought about these today.
That's a good question.
I was really thinking.
Well, so I went through a vetting type thing a couple of years ago. The Political Action Committee, the Ottawa Impact Group, they were formed basically to provide an accountability to our elected officials and challenge, right? Like these are the principles that we hold dear and are going to, you know, sort of fight for.
Right.
So, you know, so I went in and it was an interview type process. I I only knew 2 of the people that were there, but there were, a lot of moms because this was the mama bear season.
Okay.
And we had a few ministers that were a part of that, and then a couple other folks that, had brought, resources to the table. And I just knew that, one, I was always the department head, director, giving report to the elected body. So I kind of, to a degree, understood what their role was and how that would be. And so I made the decision early on that if I'm going through vetting, I'm bringing my wife and we're going to go through this together because, my health crisis that we went through, I mean, that formed a bond. I mean, she was there for me and carried me through, and
That's awesome.
so God's design for a husband and wife, really, it was one of the key things that helped me go through that. So, and I think my kids, because of what I've gone through with my health, and then just the job that I had was always policy related, and I always had an interest, who's going to be running for governor, what's the, fix the damn roads, all of that type of stuff. So my kids were kind of used to that. And so I think, for them it's probably just like any other day, although it was a little surreal to, for people to say, like, I saw you on a billboard, or I saw your yard sign or whatever. So it was a little fun at first, because it was like.
Do your kids get any rap at schools or, with their friend zones, like, what's your dad doing, or?
No, because in the homeschool realm.
Shoot, you're homeschooled.
Right, yeah.
I didn't even think about that part.
So that's kind of the thing about the challenge I see, because homeschooling has been such a opening up a new world to our family, and a freedom, as far as the schedule.
You're not like, you're not
You're not
tied
stuck
to
to
that
structure.
8 to
3:30
schedule every day.
Right.
Right.
To a degree we are,
Okay.
because of the different co-ops and things that
Okay.
they're
Now, are you
involved in.
both participating in the homeschooling, or is one?
My wife is more involved.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she actually teaches some of the co-op classes and stuff, including
That's
a
awesome.
Dave Ramsey for 5th graders.
Oh, really?
So
great.
That's
I
amazing.
wish they had that when I was. in
Wow.
school.
Why don't they have that?
Well, and that was the thing. We had no idea.
No, credit cards?
No
No one told you
idea.
anything about credit cards.
Nope. I
When
didn't
we
know
were in
anything
school.
about them really when I was.
Well, so the conversation about college that we had earlier.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you remember this, but when I would go to the bookstore, I'd buy all my books, and of course it's several $100s for all these textbooks.
Sure.
And then in my bag from the bookstore, from the university, is your magazine subscription stuff. You want to get
I
your
forgot about all this stuff. That's
yeah,
right.
and your Vibrant
Old school,
pills,
yeah.
right? Your freebie Vibrant pills, and then all of the credit card applications.
Yeah.
So they feed on students.
Oh, dude.
Oh yeah.
They really do.
I think the first time I bought books, my first semester was like $500.
Yeah, they're expensive.
And
Yep.
this is 2004, 2005.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I remember, like, after that semester, you bring the books back. They're worth like $20.
Yeah.
Right.
The book you just paid $85 for last semester is worth $20. I'm like, I didn't even use it. Like, it sat in
Did
my
you ever
locker.
have where you had to buy a book that your professor wrote?
Oh my gosh, no.
No,
That's
but I
hilarious.
have in one of my classes, like, so when you get your classes, your teacher, and then it says requirements for class.
Yeah.
It says this book, blah 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 blah, and you have to buy it before the class.
Mm-hmm.
There was 2 classes I walked into, and the teacher goes, "We're not going to use those books, so you don't need to bring them to class." I'm like, why is it on the curriculum?
Right.
Like, I just wasted $120.
Yeah.
And like, that was a lot of money back then. Like, that, I mean, it's, oh my goodness. Like, I just remember, I'm like, I just wasted $500 on something I'll probably never even read.
I think my first credit card purchase, if I remember right, out of school, was you guys probably remember this, the BMG Columbia
I
CD
was just gonna
music
ask.
clubs.
Yeah,
You're a little
that was
older than me.
another
I
thing
don't
that
know
was
that
in the
one.
bag.
And do you
Oh,
remember?
the
Do you remember
12
the
CDs for a penny?
Do you remember the excitement
12
when you got?
CDs for a
Yeah,
penny?
Yeah.
When the excitement you got when you got that box in, and you're like, oh, I got all this
Well,
music to listen to.
I think it was Netflix. Do you remember when they used to do that in the mail?
Yeah,
For
yeah.
DVDs?
When I lived in Middleville, back
Dude,
when you
that,
used to.
that was high dollar. If you had
Yeah.
Netflix in the mail, like
Oh, yeah.
$9.99 or what, $8.99.
Dude, you probably remember that. I had it in the Middleville.
Like the
way
little
back
red
in the day.
envelope in the mailbox. Like
Yeah.
you tell that to a kid now, they're like, "What are you talking about DVDs in the mail? Like, what are you talking about?" But